For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Welcome to Today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller. Good evening, Josh.
Hello, Dan.
And this evening we'll be chatting with Mauro from the Fitness Annex. He'll be along shortly. We'll also be talking to Micheline Maillet, HR specialist at FL, about incorporating fitness into an HR plans, a company's HR plans, because that can have a serious benefit for your business.
When you're talking about employee attracting talent and retaining talent, the health and wellness side is not something to be ignored at all.
Plus, as usual, great pieces of advice for today's entrepreneur on the program. But first, a look at the entrepreneurial news of the day. And we'll talk about more of this on the exchange from the political perspective later tonight. But from the business perspective, Uber is being a lot more gentle with Quebec. And it's interesting because when you see the dynamic, at first it was a bit confrontational. It was, let us in under our rules or we're out. And then they seem to have realized that you can't really sort of bully governments that way. At least you can't bully the Quebec government that way. And now they've changed the tune and are awfully more diplomatic. Is that generally the best way to go for businesses, or can you once in a while stare down a government and have a showdown and win?
Well, we are a distinct society, Dan. So Quebec does stand out, and I don't think I don't think it's the end of confrontation. Just when you're talking about businesses and dealing with government, you better make sure that you are on the side of the written law. That will help tremendously. If you are not, you're going to have countless amount of civil servants quoting you the written law, regardless whether it makes business sense or common sense. It doesn't matter. It's that law. Now, I think the tougher things to fight are those civil servants, those government employees that don't necessarily know the law, but they think they know the law. And they also believe they have a certain amount of power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you're dealing with a government employee, sometimes they don't know what they're talking about, but they pretend to because they say, hey, the business person is not going to screw with me because I am, I control his life. I can make his life difficult. So it's really important to know exactly your rights when you go into it, know the law, and don't get necessarily pushed around. But the government's broke and they need to collect their money, and they'll do what they have to get it.
We actually have a quick clip from Kevin O'Leary who was speaking to Aaron Noon. Let's get to that because he actually makes a good corporate argument for allowing Uber in Quebec and how it could have some economic impact if they don't come here.
Huge mistake. One of the problems you have to realize on a granular level, and I'll give you an example. Recently, I was on a committee looking for a new location to host a very large financial services conference. And one of the cities that came up was Vancouver. And, these are done privately because they don't want necessarily the city to know until they can negotiate hotel rooms. This was going to be a big one. And on the committee, there was about 15 members looking at it. And one of them just went online while we were talking about it, and Vancouver doesn't support Uber. They canceled it. They said, we're not going to talk to Vancouver. We don't want that. We got to have Uber because our constituents want Uber to get around between the hotels and the venues.
So there you have an example of sort of a micro issue, but it's those small decisions from government that can sometimes have a big impact because a lot of corporations are going to say, well, if we can't incorporate Uber into our purchasing sort of system and have all that done seamlessly for our conferences, then we'll just do our conference elsewhere.
It absolutely has other spin-offs. I mean, the reality is there's other safety spin-offs. You people find, if Uber is truly 40 to 50% currently cheaper than taxis, well, do people take Uber and say, it doesn't cost that much, I won't take my car, so I'll be a little bit safer when I go out in the evening? Or, and then there's, of course, maintenance and car issues and all that on the road. That there's definitely spin-offs that are going to come into play, no question about it. And it is great. It's inevitable. I think the thing that it really kind of irks me the most, or at least up there, is that we're Quebec, we're Montreal, we're supporting a tech economy. We're trying to build that tech economy, and we're taking this tech business, and I understand it's ride sharing and it's a co-sharing but we're taking this tech business that is flourishing in many parts of the world and quashing it instead of working with it. So Uber is trying to work with Quebec government, but I'm just worried it's too much of a one-way street.
Also, talking about the fires in Fort McMurray, we've also on CJD, of course, talked a lot about the human impact and the impact to people's homes and families. But there are also businesses, small businesses, that are forced to sort of leave everything behind. Some have been totally destroyed. What is your take on that, and what advice would you give someone, a business owner, who's the victim of an act of God like that?
I think it comes down to one word, and the story kind of talks about this, and it's about insurance. It's you never know when something's going to happen. If you're running a business and you don't have some type of insurance out there, most people have liability insurance if they sell a product and they don't want to get sued if something goes wrong with the product or even service for that matter. But anything can interrupt your business. I mean, you can have floods. Montreal sits on a fault line. We could technically have an earthquake, and something could happen to your business. Nobody loves to pay insurance premiums because they don't want the worst to happen. But the reality is, you never know. So I would say business interruption insurance is actually not very expensive, and not many people, or not every business goes out and looks for it and pays the premium on it. But it is a very worthwhile expense. You just never know what's going to happen. I mean, you have your liability and all that, and of course your life insurance. If you have partners, you want to take life insurance into account in case one partner dies. So insurance can play a very big part in a small business and absolutely can't be ignored. So that one piece is, you might not like the insurance salesman, but there's a good purpose for it in many occasions.
On a more optimistic note, there's a Montreal company called GenFoot, very interesting. They are looking to lead the way in terms of 3D shoes, so shoes that are really customizable to you. We got to try to get them on for next season, but this seems really really interesting. Another example of a tech startup getting into really customized stuff.
This is, there's been so much talk about 3D printing and 3D technology, making so many objects out of these 3D printers. And it just seems so natural, basically making a mold of your foot so that your shoe essentially fits perfectly. You've seen these shoes with the toes, and running. It's not quite like that. They're going to make a normal shoe, but This is using technology. This is having technology at the forefront. We're walking all day. I mean, the number of podiatrists that are out there, they're trying to fix feet and the number of different feet and flat feet and all that. This 3D technology, which, by the way, is not cheap. I mean, the machinery is hugely expensive. There's certainly big barriers to entry. But it's coming down the pipe, and there are ways. I have no doubt that there will be suppliers where if you want to get into building shoes, really what you'll have to do is deal with design and logistics, and you won't really have to invest in this major machinery. That can happen off-site. The technology will advance absolutely rapidly, and they'll be able to get into it. But this is the comfort fit. This is like spray-on clothes. That exists too somewhere, and it's just form-fitting.
Tonight on the show, we'll talk a little bit about doing your due diligence as an entrepreneur versus your gut feeling. When do you think it's okay to sort of look at due diligence and say, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with my gut?
There is. I think you have to have the right gut, though. Not every entrepreneur has the ability to read the person in front of them. They don't always have that feel for. They might have a feel for their product or service, but they don't necessarily have a feel for the person, the supplier, the partner. Due diligence. I think due diligence complements the gut feel. Because if you do your due diligence and everything looks great, but your gut says don't do it, I would say maybe follow your gut because there's something in it. If your gut says, this is great, I really got to do it, I said, great. I would agree with that, and I would say, but just support it with a little bit of due diligence, a little bit of background check, a little bit of whatever you have to do to support that gut feeling. So I don't think it should be always on its own. Of course, it depends on the amount we're talking about, but one definitely complements the other.
Coming up next, we'll chat with Mauro Simonetti, our profile this evening on Today's Entrepreneur. He's from the Fitness Annex.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller with you this evening. And we're chatting with Mauro Simonetti. He's of the Fitness Annex. Welcome, Mauro, to CJD.
Hi, thanks a lot, guys, for having me here. Really appreciate it. Gives me an opportunity to share a little bit my story. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. So tell me about yourself and tell us about the Fitness Annex.
Okay, well, Mauro Simonetti. I'm a naturopath. I'm also a strength and conditioning coach from the Polycane School. Basically, from the Polycane School, we're considered Polycane performance specialists. So we basically, mainly our training is to cater a lot to strength and conditioning for athletes. It's basically the best school, to my opinion, if you want to learn to train people the right way, period. Especially when it comes to the athletic development, which is a craft that is really a beautiful craft. When you get so good at it, you start to see the major changes you can bring to people.
What's the difference between Fitness Annex and a conventional gym?
Okay, conventional or commercial gyms, to be honest, without naming them, a lot of it, the trainers that are in there mostly have a 2-weekend education. Whereas I have I've invested in thousands of hours in my education. So basically, that's a major difference right there. And Fitness Annex, we take pride in that. We're a wellness center. So we kind of cater to clients nutritionally, psychology, so strength and conditioning. So as I was trying to explain, very different from just your conventional trainer. We also offer acupuncture, massotherapy, fascial stretching. We cater a lot.
Top to bottom.
Yes.
And in between. And inside. With the nutrition side. There's no question. Where did this kind of start? Were you always into fitness?
Actually, no. Well, I could say yes. I was always in fitness myself. I've been athletic my whole life. I played soccer. I played hockey. I have 2 gold medals in kickboxing as well. I've actually even been lifting weights since I was 11 years old. First time I lifted weights, I loved the sensation so much. I never looked back. I just knew by instinct, and it just felt natural. But when I finished high school, I went into financial economics, actually, with business as well. And I'm very happy that I did that because, at the end of the day, it helped me a lot with my career. But what happened is that with time, even though I was happy helping people financially, I just didn't feel that I was doing enough. And I know that my vocation in life is really to help people. And I guess that's where it brought me today. And why I'm doing so well too is because I think that people see me, I do have apathy. My clients are always telling me, Mauro, it's very transparent how you care for people. It's just something that's it's beautiful, and it's very gratifying to see that you can help people on so many different levels.
You're moving from financial economics to an empathetic trainer, and I think it's a great story. And we'll see how that kind of business background, that finance background, also helps you in running Fitness Annex.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:26 on today's Entrepreneur. On the program this evening, Mauro Simonetti of the Fitness Annex. And Mauro, you actually have a background in finance. Tell me why you decided to make that career change.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a great question, and I'm happy you're asking because I do want people to know a little bit the story. Basically, when I was working in finance, like I was saying, I was still training in the gyms, right? So working out in commercial gyms, and I was watching how the other trainers were working with their clientele, and knowing everything that I know through my experience and reading lots of different materials, I was a bit offended to watch people waste their money this way, and I just found that it was very wrong. I'll give you an example. Watching a trainer watch his client run on a treadmill for 45 minutes is a bit insulting. People are paying you to move steel and not... you can go outside and run for free on a treadmill.
So was that the trigger point when you said, I'm out of this business and I'm in the other one?
Yeah, it's one of them. But the thing is, mainly, I started helping some people. I started giving them my advice. And next thing you know, more and more people kept coming my way because my methods were working a lot better for them. And I was just helping out as a good guy. So at a point I said, you know what, I love helping these people. It's great. I'm just going to change career, and this is what I'm doing today.
So when did you open your first, because you're in your second location now. When
Correct.
Did you open the first location?
The first one I had opened in April 2013.
And where was that located?
It was on Bélanger and Papineau.
Why did you choose that location?
Good question. We at the time we felt that for what the services that we were offering there, the location was going to be a good one. But unfortunately, it wasn't, especially not for the kind of clientele that I was actually catering for myself. Luckily for me, I'm blessed with a great clientele. They followed me even from far. But unfortunately, with time, you start to realize, you need to accommodate them the right way. And I had to basically move back to centralize for 90% of my clientele, which is where I am today.
Now, so when you have this economic background, how is it helping you in location? Like, you have to deal with leases and landlords. Did you find that background helped in these aspects of your business?
100%, absolutely. This is why I said there's no regrets with that, because at the end of the day, any education you shouldn't regret, because it's an education. You're always learning in the process, and I definitely find that it's helped me in many ways to evolve in business aspect, because a lot of times, people do see me just as their naturopath or their strength and conditioning coach, but behind the scene there, I'm also running a pretty busy business. So the administration part of it takes a toll.
Now, just quickly, you were in the finance game, finance economics. You switched into your own business and fitness. Do you think you gave up a little bit of money just because of the switch?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, there's, financially, in finance, I was making more money, yes. But I think that also says a lot about me. So I'm actually happy you're asking that question, because, once again, just to say a little bit about myself. For me, it's literally a vocation to help people. So the fact that, yes, maybe I am making less, that I'm good with that.
Mauro Simonetti joins us of the Fitness Annex. Later in the program, we'll talk about adding fitness to perhaps your company's routine and how that could be good for business.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Welcome back to Today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller, and our guest this evening is Mauro Simonetti of the Fitness Annex. Josh, another example of a pure entrepreneur who was in finance and decided to leave that world and go for his passion, which is fitness. And that transition seems wide, but if you're an entrepreneur, we've seen this a bunch of times. It's not that complicated if you follow your passion and follow a business plan.
And certainly his background absolutely helps. I mean, when you're starting a business, of course, what's the kind of the number one? You're thinking finance, you're thinking dollars, you're thinking cash flow, and of course, business plan comes into it. And we haven't said business plan in a little while, Dan.
There you
go. But we'll come back to it now. So Mauro, I mean, you have this background. You're opening this new business a few years ago. Cash flow is got to be a huge aspect of running that business. How did you work it? Were you happy to have that finance background coming into it?
Yeah, absolutely. I did also have partners that helped me a lot with the actual financial aspect as well, making sure that the cash flow was always right and make sure that everything was paid on time and so on and so forth. Especially when a business is new, you guys know very well as well that if you're breaking even, it's already a great thing.
Certainly, when you're starting out and breaking even, that's not so bad.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we were really blessed with that and very happy. Again, and I thank my clients for that. I'm blessed with such a great clientele.
Did you go to the banks also? Did you try and find some external financing?
We did have a loan for that location. We had to do some leasehold improvements and stuff like that. So equipment and so on and so forth.
And I'm sure they wanted a business plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And
when you did your business plan, did you feel it was really just for the bank, or were you doing it for yourself?
I had fun doing it. At the same time, I didn't have fun doing it. So if you see what I'm saying, it was just so much detail. Sometimes even one little word, the bank will say like, well, I can't approve this, but I could approve this. And I was like, it's just a wording. But hey, it is what it is. And we, at the end of the day, we got it done. It was a pretty thick one too. And well, it worked out.
Now, you move locations. You're in the new location, and I think you have new partners.
Correct.
So maybe you can take us through the process, or I guess how it worked, and not necessarily the timeline, but you came into this new location. You got rid of the old location. You went closer to your customers, as you were saying earlier, because customers are king, and that's who's driving your top and I guess bottom line. Did you start as a partner right away?
No. Basically, what we did is we chose to go out before we got married. And I think that's something that I strongly recommend to everybody to do. Just for us right now, it's just a beautiful marriage. It's been a few months now, and I can't ask for more, to be honest. They've been great with me.
Was it a tough transition going from, call it, key manager to owner?
For me, no. It's just because
you were running it anyways.
Yeah, you got it. So for me, at the end of the day, it's just another day.
And when you're working with your team around you, do they look at you or deal with you any differently, going from just manager to an owner?
No, just because when I moved some members of my old team with me, so they already just saw me as the owner. Business operator or director as well. So it was actually quite easier to transition, and I'm actually very blessed to have the team that I have. They're such unbelievable individuals, and I also cannot be where I am without them, because at the end of the day, they're such an intricate part of my everyday operation.
Was it tough to find and build this team? I mean, it's been a few years now, but
yeah.
You're adding 1, 2 at a time. Where did you find them?
Part of it was luck. Some was referrals, and I chose to take with me basically the people that I felt were gonna be a really important part of the team, and I'm glad that I was right.
Did you ever have a hire, any part of your team that didn't work out, so you had to kind of part ways?
Yeah, it's always tough to do that, but at the end of the day, we can't make the business suffer. We can't make it's most importantly for our clients. I believe that whoever's paying me it deserves the best, and I only choose to give them the best.
So when you hire, do you look for, the person has to be fit, they have to understand, but what do you hire for? Do you hire more for they have an ability to do the right training, or they have a good character? Like, what do you look for when you're hiring somebody?
Honestly, the first point of contact for me is I need to see what kind of person they are. You can be great at what you do. If I don't like the way you translate that to your clients, it's not going to work out, because we have a really great synergy at the Fitness Annex. That's one thing that our clients are constantly ranting about, is they love coming there. It's like a family. And I tell everybody, look, at the end of the day, this place is your refuge and your sanctuary. And if you don't have a staff that makes them comfortable, that it just gets disruptive.
So naturally, it sounds like, if we kind of switch gears to marketing for a moment, and how do people find you, you make it sound, or I'm going to take the leap, that there's a lot of word of mouth. You have your happy customer, and they're referring somebody. Is that what you're relying on for marketing?
1000%. That's the main thing. We're in a particular business in the strength and conditioning world, or fitness world, I should say, because you could have the nicest location on the planet, on the busiest street on the planet. If you're not good at what you do, or people just don't like you, it's not going to work out. And thank God for us. I'm very good at what I do, thanks to my education, and again, because of the good people and the right people around me. So yeah, our clientele are basically our best business cards.
But if you want to grow a little faster, most people are trying to get social media, whatever. Are you online? Are you doing that? Do you find that is a requirement that helps? What are you doing a little bit differently or the same as everybody else?
Yeah, Josh, I 100%. Definitely social media is very important today. I really recommend people to be busy on social media. I think that being transparent every day, I do motivational things every morning, and my clients love that stuff, and
Online, you mean on your Facebook page or something like
yeah,
that?
I also send an email every morning to all my clientele. I have a big recipients list, and I do it with all my heart because I want people to be aware. So I send them informational articles. I put my own input in there. I want people to be educated. I think this is one of the most important things today is giving people this education, giving people this awareness.
It's probably a challenge as well because not everybody is aware. I mean, we're talking off air about nutrition, and there are some things, there's so many myths out there that you have to debunk or re-educate, retrain a lot of your customers. Do you find you do that often?
Every day. It's an everyday challenge. There's a lot, and this is why guys like me in this industry, we're trying so hard every day to debunk this. There's so many antiquated notions. For example, like eggs cause cholesterol. They so do not. And I gotta still tell people this every day, every single day. And it's part of even the new standard American diet. The government literally said you eat eggs. It does not cause cholesterol, but people are still, I don't know, I'm hesitant. Don't be. I'm telling you, just go for it.
No, look at Rocky Balboa. He had raw eggs every morning. How bad could it have been?
Look, at the end, that's like I was saying. So that's one of the major challenges is really re-educating people because there's like over 60 years of brainwashing done here. So there's a lot of work to do.
So you also have to keep up with the education. I mean, I'm sure there's new studies that come out every day, every week. Do you stay on top of that as
Always. Well? I'm all over the place. So that's part of a couple hours a week as well, reading in new materials. I'm in different courses practically monthly. I think, again, because if you want to give the best, you need to learn from the best as well. Another challenge that we have too in this industry is that way too many commercial spots or even some private spots. I mean, I don't want to name names like I was saying, but there's one spot not far from us where the people there are not even certified, period. And yet people are going there to train, and I'm watching some of their clips on YouTube, and it's insane just watching what they're doing. You can actually injure people tremendously, giving very bad nutrition advice. It's just nonsense, and I'm trying to make people aware of being careful with stuff like this.
And it takes a lot of energy and, of course, passion that we hear. And you're in good shape. It's radio, but we can see you're in good shape.
Thank you.
Today's Entrepreneur on CJAD with Mauro Simonetti of the Fitness Annex. Coming up next, we'll talk to Micheline Maillet, HR consultant at Fuller Landau, about fitness and about more and more companies putting a fitness plan in place for the good of their employees and for their business as well.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:50 on today's Entrepreneur, inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller with you. Plus, we have Mario Simonetti from the Fitness Annex this evening. We'll have his one piece of advice for today's Entrepreneur on the way. But first, we have Micheline Maillet, HR consultant, with us from Fuller Landau. And Micheline, we're talking a lot about fitness, of course, and more and more companies, it seems these days, are incorporating fitness plans into their workday for their employees. Tell us about maybe some of the potential benefits about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one thing we always heard about in the past, or like a lot of companies will focus on, is health and safety. So you're thinking about like CSST, making sure that, the company doesn't have any, like too many workplace accidents or work-related illnesses that happen. So they'll take measures to prevent this type of thing. And they have a legal obligation at the same time to make sure that they provide a workplace that's safe for all their employees. So really the trend right now is more towards health and wellness. And the difference is really that with health and safety, you're really talking about, safety with regards to the person actually doing their job and performing their work, whereas health and wellness kind of goes more, I guess, into their personal lives as well.
And so you find, because we were talking right at the top of the hour, we were saying, health and wellness, it's also a part of attracting and retaining talent.
For sure.
And setting up these programs is, yes, it's good for the individual, it's good for the employee, but the reality is it's great for perhaps productivity, it's great for camaraderie, it could be good for all these things. So
could reduce absenteeism, increase productivity. There's also something we don't talk a lot about called presenteeism, which is when employees are actually present at work but not really performing up to their full capacity. Even just, from a monetary standpoint, it could help reduce insurance costs over a long term. But I think the key is that you have to be patient because not all of these advantages will be seen in the short term.
And what about, I've heard of these EAP programs, these employer assistant programs.
Yeah.
Maybe you can kind of chat about that.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because a lot of companies have them. A lot of companies have them included in their group insurance already, and they just don't use them. So yes, it's one thing to look and see at adding an EAP, but a lot of companies actually have it, and they don't think to promote it or let the employees know some of the benefits they can get out of it. So it can be, counseling to help reduce stress. It could be dealing with family-related issues. Even some EAPs will offer companies a free wellness seminar once a year. So there's different things you could get out of it, for sure.
How do you broach the subject with your employees? Because you obviously can't go to an employee and sort of say, well, I think you should work out. How do you sort of make that option available without being inappropriate?
For sure. So usually it's not done on a one-on-one basis. Like, exactly like that. I think you need to work out. I think you need to eat a little bit better.
Why are you looking at me? I don't understand this.
Yeah. So normally it's the company wants to show that, really demonstrate that the employees are important for them. So not just in terms of the work that they're providing, but really, so it could be all kinds of tools. Really, it could be just taking the initiative to stop serving pizza when there's meetings and serve salads instead. So you really want to, first of all, communicate that this is an initiative that the employer is taking. Usually it's not mandatory. Normally there's some kind of surveying that's done with employees to see, I guess, where to put the biggest priority. So you're not going to do a smoking cessation program if you have 2 smokers in the whole company. So you'll kind of see with the employees, it could be through an anonymous survey where they feel they need help with regards to health and wellness.
And sometimes it's organic. It's, I know at our firm, during the busy season, we offer fruit during the day. Mm-hmm. Certainly during our breakfast meetings, I recall the bagels and the chocolate croissants and the Danish that are out there. Yeah. And now it's yogurt and fruit. And yes, we can still have the bagels out there, but maybe there's no chocolate croissant or stuff that's maybe a little bit worse to have during those meetings. So I think it's also the employer paying attention to the people around them, because the reality is the food that was the chocolate croissants and the Danish and the bagels, it was actually still on the table after the meeting. Mm-hmm. Yet the yogurts and the like, kind of disappear.
Yeah, if you guys are okay, I'm just going to put a little bit of an input here. I'm actually happy you're talking about this because I've worked with a lot of companies already in my career, and I've done a lot of health seminars. I actually just did one last week with TD Bank, and just to give you guys a little bit of my experience in this is, in fact, every day, because for myself as a naturopath, I'm able to give receipts for those services, and a lot of people that come didn't even know that they were paying for these services through their pays. So that's one thing that I'm actually happy you're saying this today, because I think that people should know that they're paying for these services and that they have access to getting healthier.
I think it's the question of access, and sometimes the employees don't know that they have access, and sometimes the employer kind of maybe ignores that part of the group insurance. Well, it's a great topic, and I'm glad. I hope the entrepreneurs are listening that there are all these possibilities.
More HR issues, plus Mauro's one piece of advice for today's entrepreneurs on the way.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Mauro Simonetti joined us of the Fitness Annex, plus talking about HR with Fuller Landau's Micheline, Maillet, and Josh. Sometimes incorporating those health plans, really good for business.
Now, quickly, Micheline, culture in an organization we talk about all the time, hugely important. How about here in the health and wellness side?
For sure, the climate is going to make a big difference. So, there's things that employers can do just in their everyday management that will have a huge impact on people's stress. So you could think about, creating unnecessarily tight deadlines, giving people more time to get work done, communicating with employees frequently, or even just having policies that promote work-life balance. So these will definitely go a long way just to helping reduce stress in people's lives. And
we have an FL, a Fuller Landau Health and Safety Seminar coming up soon.
Yes, we do. Actually, on May 25th, we have a seminar on prevention. So it's more on the health and safety aspect, so CSST. Companies have a legal obligation to prevent workplace accidents. So we're going to talk concretely about some ways that companies could do that and in the long run save costs on their premiums.
So May 25th, and if you're interested, feel free to reach out at hr@flmontreal.com.
Yeah.
And as we approach the last moment of our show, we'll turn to Mauro Simonetti, Fitness Annex, and ask you, Mauro, what would be your one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur?
For me, the one piece of advice I would give is the word persistence. Owning a business can be so hard, and there are adversities and obstacles every day. But if you truly believe in what you're doing with all your heart, you're going to succeed. And because I've seen people in the process sometimes fail and give up. Failing is a good sign. It means you're trying. Just don't give up. Keep going.
Excellent. Dan, my quick takeaway is, if you don't know, Mauro quickly said earlier, I surrounded myself with good people around me. If I didn't know it, I got help from them. His passion certainly stands out. So those are the two things that stand out.
Thank you.
Mauro Simonetti from the Fitness Annex. Thanks very much, Mauro.
Thank you.
And thanks to Micheline Maillet from FL. And Josh will be back here 2 weeks from tonight for today's Entrepreneur.
Our last show, Dan.
With
Frank and Oak.
I know, big Montreal company, very exciting. So that is on the way. The Exchange first with Lise Ravery is next.